Так что разговор был, я считаю, очень полезный. Мы не просто слушали, но и слышали друг друга. И у меня есть основания полагать, что американская сторона стала лучше понимать нашу позицию, которую мы на основе многократных выступлений президента Путина подробно на конкретных примерах изложили в очередной раз.
Everybody there to get to the right outcome, solution-based. We discussed it afterwards. We couldn't have imagined a better result after this session. It was very, very solid.
This is my video update on this Tuesday afternoon, February the 18th, coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. And the big news, of course, is the U.S.-Russia talks that are taking place right now in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The U.S. delegation is Rubio, Witkoff, and Waltz. Notice that Kellogg is not there. Kellogg was the distraction. He kept the Europeans distracted. Rubio, Witkoff, and Waltz. That is the U.S. delegation. The Russian delegation includes Lavrov. It also includes Ushakov. And, very interesting, Kirill Dmitriev, who is the chief executive of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the RDIF. He will also be at these talks. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, created in 2011, the fund aims to attract direct investments and venture capital into Russia. Very interesting addition to the Russian delegation. From what I understand, the first session has ended. And I believe right now, as I'm recording this video, they're going to have a working lunch and then resume the talks. Coming from the ex-account of Lord Bibo, the worst case scenario for Ukraine is happening in Saudi Arabia. Russian delegation member Ushakov, the main thing is to begin a real normalization of relations between us and Washington. The negotiations are not about Ukraine, but about restoring relations with America. Essentially, Russia and America looking to restore relations and work together on global issues, which include Ukraine, Middle East, mediation with China, mediation with Iran, mediation with North Korea, BRICS and U.S. relations, de-dollarization situation. Everything that Ushakov has listed here is pretty much everything that me and Alexander talked about in the video that we made a couple of days ago on the Duran. And this is not only Elensky's worst nightmare, this is the Europeans, the collective West's worst nightmare that is unfolding in Riyadh. U.S. firms lost $300 billion by leaving Russia. The West's sanctions war has backfired on American companies, the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund has said. And he is at these meetings, the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund. Why would Putin send the head of the Russian Sovereign Wealth Fund, which manages investments in Russia, to these negotiations? Because Russia and Putin, they understand how to create a win-win situation, and they understand what Trump is looking for. That's why. The official noted that given such hefty losses, lifting sanctions would be in the interests of the U.S. as well as Russia. What we want is good dialogue. Finding joint economic ways to solve problems is extremely important, mainly for the U.S., Dmitriev stated. U.S. businesses lost over $300 billion from leaving the Russian market, Dmitriev told CNN on Tuesday ahead of the first direct Russia-U.S. negotiations over the Ukraine conflict in Saudi Arabia. The figure is nearly equal to the amount of Russian central bank assets frozen in the West as part of sanctions. Isn't that interesting? That 300 billion amount that Dmitriev is talking about. So Elon Musk, he posted on X as the talks were about to get underway, Lavrov arriving in Saudi Arabia with a video of Lavrov actually stepping off the plane in Riyadh. Musk said, "This is what competent leadership looks like." He's talking about Lavrov. Elon Musk is talking about Lavrov. This is what competent leadership looks like. And we were off to a very good start in the meetings because before everything really started up, both President Trump and President Putin called in and wished everybody luck. So in general, a good vibe, a very good vibe. This must be driving the Europeans absolutely crazy. Elensky was in UAE the other day. What's he doing in the UAE with Elensky? He's probably getting his finances in order, but he's in Turkey today. And then tomorrow he goes to Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow he goes to Saudi Arabia, not to take part in the meetings. He kind of invited himself to Saudi Arabia. He wanted to crash the party, but MBS and the Saudis said no chance, not going to happen. But who are we to tell you that you cannot visit Riyadh? I read somewhere that in UAE, they put up Elensky and Elenskaya at the Moscow hotel. Is that correct? Wow. Oh my God. Zelensky to visit Saudi Arabia after U.S.-Russia talks. His trip will come one day after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov meets with U.S. officials as part of what the Kremlin says are efforts to repair Moscow's relations with Washington. Yeah, very, very sad. Very sad and pathetic for Elensky. He's going to the UAE, my guess would be so he can take a look at his financial situation, maybe prepare for some sort of an exit. But then he's also forced to try and crash the negotiations in Saudi Arabia, right? That's the situation that Elensky finds himself in. So what else is going on? The Financial Times put out an article with the title, "The Ukrainian Mineral Riches in Trump's Sights. Vast estimated deposits of lithium, titanium, and rare earths, such as gallium, have yet to be significantly developed." So the Financial Times, in this article, they're basically reporting everything that I have been saying and we have been saying on the Duran about the rare earth minerals, that it is all a fantasy. It was all one big freaking fantasy. It would take tremendous amounts of money and investment and time and all kinds of other obstacles, political obstacles, geopolitical obstacles, to actually get whatever rare earth minerals are in Ukraine's possession, to actually get these things to become profitable. It's just such a difficult task. The Financial Times is reporting that this was never going to happen. It was all a myth, a mirage, which leads me to believe that Elensky fell into a Trump trap, right? Yeah, Elensky was promising something that he didn't have to give. He was bargaining with something that didn't exist, and the Trump administration knew this. And so they squeezed him. They squeezed him and they exposed him. That's exactly what happened. How do I know this? Well, I know this because, according to The Economist, they're reporting that Elensky had an hour to agree to U.S. rare earths deal. The title of The Economist article is "America has just tried to grab Ukraine's vast mineral wealth. Team Trump's shakedown diplomacy." Trump knew that these rare earths, I mean, these guys are business guys, man. He's got a whole team of business people. If I knew that the rare earths was a fantasy, you're telling me that the U.S., the White House, did not know that Elensky's rare earth minerals offer was a joke? Of course they knew it was a joke. That's why they meet with Elensky and say, you have an hour to sign this. You have an hour to sign. They're playing with him, man. And he fell for it. He fell for all of it. He fell for all of it. Meantime, Russia and the United States are doing business, man. Because Russia does have things to offer the United States and the Trump administration. They've worked together in the past on all kinds of successful ventures in oil and gas and all kinds of things. There were some reports saying that they're even considering working together in the Arctic, the United States and Russia. I think they had a joint venture in the Arctic, which fell apart because of the sanctions. But Russia, my point is that Russia has real business to offer the United States, and vice versa. Zelensky had none of this stuff. He was just playing a part, man. He was making it up. He was playing a role. He was acting. He was doing what he has been doing for the past 3 years. Acting as if he had rare earth minerals to barter with the United States in exchange for weapons and U.S. military and security guarantees in Ukraine. And the Trump administration knew this. They would not go to Elensky and say, you have 1 hour to sign this agreement. They would never do that. If they were serious, if they knew that Elensky really had rare earth minerals and they were serious about striking some sort of an investment deal, they would not sit there and pass him a piece of paper and say, you have an hour to sign this. They're messing around with him, man. The Economist hasn't figured it out, though. They're neocons. They haven't figured out any of this. The Telegraph put an article out with the title, "Revealed: Trump's Confidential Plan to Put Ukraine in a Stranglehold. Panic in Kiev as U.S. President demands higher share of GDP than Germany's First World War reparations." All misdirection, man. All of this stuff is misdirection from the Trump administration. They want to do a deal with Russia. All this other stuff about Ukraine is all just misdirection, man. Telegraph hasn't figured it out. From Il Lebanese, the U.S. compensation deal Ukraine has offered is worse than the reparations imposed on Germany, according to the Telegraph. It includes more than just control of the country's critical minerals. It includes everything from ports and infrastructure to oil and gas, as well as the country's vast resource base, it says. That is what the Telegraph is reporting. I could just imagine the Trump administration, like they're all sitting around at the White House, all of these really smart business people, right? And they're saying, okay, we're going to talk to Russia. We're going to try to put together some real deals, like real business. We'll try to figure it out. We'll figure out how to handle the sanctions. We'll figure out, of course, how to deal with the conflict in Ukraine. And we'll try to get business started up again, right? But what do we do with Ukraine and the Europeans? Okay, well, Elensky once brought up the rare earth minerals. I think he doesn't know what he's talking about, but let's just go off of his statements about rare earth minerals and let's bait him with the rare earth minerals. So President Trump, you when you're signing the executive orders, we'll get a reporter. We'll plant a question with Peter Doocy of Fox News. He'll ask you about the rare earth minerals. You come out with a statement and say you want 50% of the rare earth minerals for security guarantees. And then we'll also put together a deal for Elensky and tell him he has an hour to sign it. And then we'll put together another deal and we'll say that we want everything from Ukraine. We want your oil, your gas, your ports, everything. And we'll also leak that to the media as well. And that'll keep them distracted as we do some real business. Just a thought as to what was going on. That's kind of the picture that I have in my head, and they're coming up with all of these ideas as they're sitting around the kitchen table in the in the White House. I don't know. And everyone fell for it. I think everyone fell for all of this stuff. Financial Times also has an article with the title, Europe Consigned to Kids' Table in Ukraine. Peace Talks, says defense CEO. Decades of underinvestment in military has left region isolated in U.S.-Russia negotiations, says Rheinmetall chief. Did I not tell you that they would need a high chair for Elensky if he was invited to the negotiating table? Europe consigned to the kids' table, according to Rheinmetall. Yeah, I read an article that said Rheinmetall is ready to start manufacturing military equipment in Ukraine. Yeah, right. Dream on, Rheinmetall, dream on. We're even getting reports, where is it? We're even getting reports from the Financial Times, once again, citing their sources, which say the U.S. may withdraw its troops from the Baltic states amid negotiations with Russia. Oh, please, God, I don't ask for much. I don't ask for much in life. But please let these sources from the Financial Times be true, be accurate. Please. Can you imagine the freak out from the Baltic states if part of the deal is that the U.S. has to remove their military presence in the Baltic states? Can you imagine the freak out from stunning and brave Kaja Kallas? Oh my God, would they freak out? I mean, they would completely melt down. It's possible. And I'll tell you why this could be very possible. And the Financial Times reporting could be accurate here, because one of the conditions from Russia, which is winning the war and which has effectively won the war, one of their terms in Istanbul Plus is a new security architecture in Europe. And they've talked about NATO forces being moved back away from Russia's borders. What are the countries that are on Russia's borders? Oh, the Baltics. Take your military and move it back. What does the United States lose? Nothing. Nothing. What is it in America's interests to have military in the Baltics? Doesn't serve the U.S. interests at all. Oh, please let this reporting be true. That would be something, huh? That would be something indeed. We had the big Paris emergency meeting of the EU leaders yesterday. They all gathered around the round table, around the round table, the clown table, the Knights of the Round Table. The clowns of the round table. They got a nice photo there. They're all sitting there in Paris, sitting at this big round table. Ursula and Rutte, Costa and Tusk and Stormer, Keir Stormer, 008, licensed to bore you. Macron, who hosted the event, he was also there. Meloni was there, though, judging by this photo of Giorgia Meloni. she does not want to be there. You chose poorly, Giorgia Meloni. You chose poorly. You chose the side of the losers. And you did make that choice, Giorgia Meloni. You could have easily sided with Orban. But what Giorgia Meloni did when Orban was promoting Meloni and supporting Meloni, Meloni backstabbed Orban, and she decided to go with Ursula and Annalena and all of those people. And she went against Orban. And now she is sitting at the loser's table, and look at her face. Look at her face. Oh, it makes me so happy to see Meloni just sitting there saying, what have I done? What have I done? Yeah, she chose to be there. That was her choice. She actually thought that Ursula and Bidenopolis were going to defeat Putin. Man, that's pretty dumb. It's pretty dumb to believe that Ursula and Biden were going to, and Blinken and Sullivan were going to defeat Putin and Lavrov and Medvedev, Zakharova. Boy, oh boy. Germany said that as this meeting was wrapping up, Germany said that they will not send troops to Ukraine without U.S. involvement. France, they're ready to send troops to Ukraine, but they would also like U.S. security guarantees. And Stormer, Keir Stormer, 008, how do you like your drink, Keir Stormer? I like it shaken, not stirred. Keir Stormer, 008, licensed to bore you. Keir Stormer said he's going to go to the White House. He came out with a statement and said he is going to go to the United States next week, and he is going to meet with Trump. A U.S. security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground if he gets U.S. security guarantees. So Germany wants U.S. involvement. France is ready to send troops, but they would like the U.S. involved. And Keir Starmer said he's ready. He is ready to send 25,000 British troops to Ukraine. Should there be a ceasefire? Should there be a ceasefire? Then 25,000 British soldiers to Ukraine, but he would like the U.S.'s backing, a U.S. security guarantee. So he's going to go to the United States and meet with Trump, who he has an excellent relationship with because Keir Starmer openly supported Kamala Harris during the elections. He is going to use his Keir Starmer charm, his 008 charm, to get Trump to sign off on U.S. security guarantees so that European military, of which there are none, British military forces, of which there are none, can go to Ukraine and serve as a peacekeeping force. The Russians have said many times that they would never, ever, Miss Jackson, would they accept European peacekeepers, European military of any kind in Ukraine. Actually, the Russian ambassador to the United Nations, Nebenzia, last week said that the only peacekeepers that would be allowed in Ukraine would be under the mandate, the decision of the UN Security Council, of which he said Russia is a member of the UN Security Council. That's the only way, the only condition that Russia would accept peacekeepers in Ukraine. So in other words, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. So what is Keir Starmer trying to do? What are the Europeans, after this emergency meeting, what are they trying to accomplish? What's the plan? The plan is to try and get the U.S. military into Ukraine. That's the plan. That's what they want to have happen. The Ukraine proxy has been exhausted and defeated. So their thinking is, you know what? We don't have the Ukraine proxy to fight Russia. So let's try to convince Trump to send the U.S. military to fight the Russian military, and it'll be the U.S. military that will act as our proxy as we benefit from the war as European political elite. That's the plan. That is the plan. The US military fighting on behalf of the European political elite. The US as their proxy. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a very good plan, does it? That's what they came up with. And they're going to send Keir Starmer to convince Trump. Real good. You couldn't send Maloney? At least send Georgia Maloney. She has a better chance of convincing Trump, not Keir Starmer. But Georgia Maloney probably said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to convince him of this stupid idea. You go, Keir Starmer. I'm not going to go. It's a dumb plan. I don't even want to be here sitting at this table. Madness, man. It is madness with the EU. They are flipping out. Absolutely flipping out. What did Medvedev have to say? It's always interesting to hear from Dmitry Medvedev. So he posted on X, while Paris hosted a gathering of European countries vehemently advocating war without end, Kiev's drug addict attacked an oil facility belonging to the International Caspian Pipeline Consortium, which carries U.S. oil, as anti-Trump international seems to be taking shape in Europe. Oh yeah, this story is interesting, huh? This story is really interesting. Ukrainian strike on U.S.-linked energy infrastructure is Elensky's démarche, Russian MP. Kiev forces have targeted a major oil pumping station in Russia linked to American companies. So yeah, there's this oil pumping station, which I believe is a joint venture. See, a joint venture with Russia, the United States. I believe Kazakhstan is also involved in this. And I believe the U.S. stake in this oil pumping facility is in the station is 40%. And so what does the Zelensky regime decide to do? They decide to send drones into this station and go after U.S. company infrastructure, lashing out at the U.S., lashing out at Trump, going after U.S. energy resources. Real smart, real smart to Ukraine. Oh, man. An amazing day, everybody. An absolutely amazing day. Did I cover everything? I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about for today. There are some rumors. I almost forgot to talk about this. Rumors that the plan that is being worked out, specifically on Ukraine, even though they're talking about a lot of other things, Ukraine is just one topic of many, but the plan for Ukraine, according to rumors, maybe this is true, most likely it's not, is that the plan will be a ceasefire, elections, and then the new leader of Ukraine signing the peace deal, the negotiated peace settlement. So we're talking about elections happening very, very quickly. Remember yesterday I talked about how Poroshenko put out a date of October, I believe 26, 2025 as elections for Ukraine. It looks like the elections are going to be pushed up to maybe within a month or two, 1, 2, 3 months, who knows? They're going to happen very quickly if this reporting is to be believed. So a ceasefire, elections, and a new leader to sign the deal. Now, the ceasefire, the elections, I believe, and a new leader to sign a negotiated settlement, I'm on board with that. The ceasefire part is what I'm having trouble believing, because the Russians have said that there will be no ceasefire. But as I think about it, there could be one concession that could be made. Something could happen which would lead the Russian side to say, okay, we'll will agree to a ceasefire. Two concessions that could be made so that the Russian negotiating team could say, yes, let's have a ceasefire. I'll tell you what those two concessions could be. The first one, I mentioned it, is that the elections get moved up. So elections happen in the spring, summer, okay? Elections in the spring, summer, the Green Goblin's gone, someone else comes in, someone that the Russians can work with, and they're cool with that. So that's the first thing that could happen. The second thing that could happen is that the Russian terms of the Ukraine military completely leaving the entirety of the 4 oblasts, the new parts of the Russian Federation, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson. If that happens, then I can see the Russian negotiating team, Putin, saying, okay, now we can have a ceasefire and elections in a month. If something like that happens, then I believe this reporting. Now, how this is going to affect Ukraine, I don't know, because we're talking about the military, the Ukraine military that is currently in parts of Zaporozhye and Kherson. They would just be leaving, dropping their weapons or taking their weapons with them. I don't know, just leaving those areas. And then those areas would be completely Russian oblasts in full. And then if you have elections, once that happens, if you have elections in say a month after that, then I can see how you can get a ceasefire, how the Russians will agree to a ceasefire. Amazing, amazing times, amazing place. Huge stadium, huh? Old stadium, but it still works. You can see the Acropolis down there on that side. All right, let's do some clown worlds and we can wrap this video up. So the clown world for today should have been that Georgia Maloney picture. What am I doing here? She's saying, ay, ay, ay. What am I doing here? Mamma mia. Get me out of here. Why did I side with Ursula and Annalena? Oh man. So this is a clown world, but this is interesting, an interesting story. What's the publication here? Berliner Zeitung. According to Berliner Zeitung, and this is Google translated, Baerbock is chattering. In other words, Baerbock is talking. She is talking. After the elections, billions for Ukraine. The EU actually wanted to keep the arms project secret until after the federal election, but Annalena let the cat out of the sack, out of the bag. Google Translate from German. Basically, Annalena is running her mouth, and she couldn't keep a secret. And according to Berliner Zeitung, the secret that Annalena was entrusted to keep, don't trust Annalena with secrets, but the secret was that the European Union, they are planning to give Ukraine 700 billion euros or dollars, not sure, doesn't matter, 700 billion. And this money was going to be in the form of printing and borrowing. That's how they were going to get this 700 billion. They were going to borrow it and print it and then give it to the Green Goblin so that Ukraine can continue to fight Russia. If this is to be believed, then wow, this is a clown world, because this is never going to happen. But the fact that they're talking about creating this type of a slush fund, a 700 billion euro slush fund through money printing and borrowing, is just amazing. Absolutely amazing that they're actually thinking about this. 700 billion with a B. I was thinking million. When I first read this story, I was thinking 700 million. Okay, whatever. That'll last Ukraine about a month, not even a couple of weeks. And then I reread it and it said billion. I was like, are you kidding me? If this was ever to happen, it would sink the European Union. I mean, the European Union would be completely destroyed, absolutely destroyed, if they actually decided to push this forward. Anyway, this is what the German media is saying. Annalena is talking about, and she was supposed to keep it secret from the German people until after the elections. But she let the cat out of the bag, according to German media. Anyway, I think that's a pretty serious clown world. Shows you how crazy the European leaders are, how reckless and how incompetent they are. By the way, did you catch the attire of the negotiating teams, the US and the Russian? According to reports, according to people that understand fashion, the ties of Lavrov and Rubio matched, and also the neckties of Witkoff matched with his Russian counterpart as well, from what I understand. Lavrov and Rubio arrived with the same necktie, and the special envoy to the Middle East, Witkoff, and Ushakov. So Witkoff and Ushakov, according to reports, also had matching or similar ties. I don't know, just an observation if this is true. All right, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like the Duran bomber jacket that I am wearing in this video update. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.